thanks for all the introductions, and it's once again, it's really good to have you all here, and welcome. So I will just now make a very short introduction to the project. I don't want to talk about it in much length, and then we'll give the floor to a few communities. We of course will have quite a lot of discussion as well. So let me just bring up on the screen the presentation. Okay. Great. So as I said, this is the knowledge cluster on renewable energy within the Smart Rural 27 project. And I will say just a few words about the project. And I have to say that we are very excited about this activity. It was not originally foreseen. It's very much driven by the need of rural communities who express their needs to us during the Smart Rural 21 project. And many of you participated there and beyond in a number of discussions that we had. So the smart, what we want to do today first, I will very briefly introduce the Smart Rural 27 project. Then we will hear two interventions from Stanz in Austria and Haretsbeck. You already saw Fritz Reiner and Mette. They will talk about their approaches. They are some of the lighthouse examples that we are working with, but of course we have other lighthouse communities because you applied, but we identified these two communities beforehand together with Samso, and maybe Ivona can say a few words about their village as well. Then we will talk about the energy cluster itself, how it's structured, who applied, who's in the group. Maybe we will tell a few data about you. And also we want to discuss with you the key topics of interest. We gathered some of those from your applications, but we would like to hear in an informal discussion much more about it. And please interrupt me anytime you feel like. We really want to make it a chat, an informal discussion. So it's not like a formal meeting or a series of presentations, but we want to chat and talk to you about the challenges that you're facing and the topics that you want to work on within the renewable energy cluster theme. So, of course, at the end, we want to discuss with you the next steps, what we do next, what the cluster has to offer, how you can contribute, how we can hopefully contribute to your work. So that's what we are planning to do in these next 2 hours, more or less. We will see how it goes and how long it runs. So about the Smart Rural 27 project, where those of you who know Smart Rural 21 and the website is still live, we soon will have published the final report of that event, and also including those of you who couldn't come to the final event or have not been involved with the Smart Rural 21 project. That project aimed to support rural communities to develop smart village strategies and implement smart actions, and we really try to share the knowledge accumulated through this process. The Smart Rural 27 project focuses much more on the policy side, or that's what it meant to do, or the implementation of smart villages. And it aims to prepare the EU member states and rural communities for the implementation of the Common Agricultural Policy, which is the key policy that supports smart villages in the EU. But it's not just that, it's also other policies and other programs, and we will try to help to identify the relevant ones for you in your country within this cluster, but probably you already know many of them, and I saw in your applications as well that you are already working on a number of EU-funded projects, research projects, Interreg, and so on. So we are really curious to hear your experience on that as well. So the whole point is that through this support system, including policies and other support, we really try to ensure that smart villages emerge across the EU. So it's really to strengthen the support framework for smart villages. That's what the Smart Rural 27 project is about. And we could share later on the website. We do a series of activities in the member states, among others. For instance, right now we are analyzing the Common Agricultural Policy strategic plans to see where there are support interventions for rural communities to implement smart village strategies. We are also developing a geomapping database that I will talk about, which is a database of smart villages, and so on. So we do a series of activities, but I would like to talk about one specific one, which is the focus of this year's work and where the knowledge cluster is placed as well, which is the European Pilot Smart Villages Observatory. So we are trying to create a platform through this project to help the interaction between key stakeholders in this whole smart villages landscape. And of course, you are key stakeholders within that landscape, and I will show you where and how. We soon realized after the Smart Role 21, but especially during the Smart Role 21 project, and I had discussions with many of you also sitting here, that we really felt that we cannot simply just continue supporting smart villages at the policy level in Smart Role 27, but there is a very strong need to enable discussion and exchange of experience between rural communities like yourselves. So there was also an interest expressed that this should be around specific topics, because it's interesting to exchange with other villages in general, but villages and rural communities are very different and have different interests. So there was a strong interest from the communities coming to us that we should exchange about specific topics, very concrete, practical stuff. And this is how this idea of exchange of rural communities came about. So this is one infographic, which is not yet perfect, but we will be using during the project to kind of tell and explain and express what the Smart Villages Observatory is about and meant to be about. So it's got essentially 3 legs, and you are one of the strongest leg of this whole system, which is the knowledge cluster, these rural communities, this group of rural communities I will talk about in a minute. So this is one group we really intensively try to work with, and we have worked with during the Smart Role 21 project, and we want to continue this work with you in the Smart Role 27 project, and I will come to that block in a minute. And we've got 2 other levels, if you'd like, or groups. One that we are setting up in some member states, so-called task forces. These are different people coming with different backgrounds. So some of them are from the ministry, some of them are local action group representatives like you are here. Some of them are villages, but the idea is to help smart villages policy implementation in a very specific national or regional context, and to help to create EU funding support or create the framework for EU funding support implementation in these member states, and make sure that communities like yourselves get the funding from the different funding sources. So that's the kind of the mission of the national task forces that we have set up, not in all countries, but right now in some 9-10 countries. We are happy to talk about it more. Like what's the focus of each of these. But the idea is that these are working in national language, and they really try to advance a very specific support framework or mechanism in that country or region. And then we will organize exchanges, probably most of them online, but some face-to-face. I will come to that under the next steps. About smart villages among the groups who work on the same topic. So for instance, we might have a group of local action groups. Once again, some of you are representing local action groups here. So to allow them to exchange with each other across countries. So these are kind of functional groups at the European level, and they can also be managing authorities of the common agricultural policy programs or different kind of networks and so on. But the idea is, the basic idea that at the European level, we try to bring together those who work in the same responsibility to allow them to exchange with each other. So this is the framework we are in the middle of setting up during this year, and we are very excited about it. And as I said, you and the knowledge clusters are one of the key legs of this. We are organizing knowledge clusters on other topics as well. We will soon launch one on digital services and possibly one on rural enterprises and businesses, but these are still coming up and will depend a bit on the resources in the project, because this is an activity which has not been planned at the beginning. We just included it because we really felt the need from rural communities like yourselves. So my last slide on this structure, and then we are going to the more exciting bit of hearing from some of the communities. So as you know, and as you could see, and you could see from the call, and you applied, so you all know that we are trying to structure the clusters in 3 layers. Now, those who are sitting here represent all these 3 layers, and of course, all the communities are welcome. We will try to get back to you on the specific applications. Some of you, we might suggest that you can even be Lighthouse. From some of you, if you would like to be a learning community, we might need a bit more information because the status of the different groups is slightly different. So Lighthouse communities, generally we see all those communities who have really relevant, inspiring experience in the cluster topic, which is renewable energy in this case, to share with others. And also they normally, it's not just a one-off action, but it's built into a longer term development, which sometimes started 30, 50 years ago in some of the communities. So it's a smart journey that these communities are going through, and they already have something very useful to share with other communities in the renewable energy topic. Learning communities are communities who really decided that they want to work, in this case, on the renewable energy topic. And you have already made some initial steps in the planning. You know what you want to do, but you really want to know more about the practices of others. So we would like learning communities who really have kind of a decision that they would like to work on renewable energy topic, but might not know the exact way or are really curious to hear. And of course, that's often the dividing line is not that sharp between these 2 sets of communities, because I know that our Lighthouse communities here are also very keen to learn from others. So don't feel a pressure in this context at all. And the last group is the follower communities, because we know there is normally a large group of communities who want to hear what's happening in other areas, but they might not have started yet some actions on this, but they are still very interested in this topic. So we would like to keep you engaged if you are a follower community, and keep you informed about all the actions, and invite you to sessions like this and smart cafes and so on. So we really want to share the knowledge generated. Generally, it will be expected that the Lighthouse and learning communities work much closer together, because they are really focusing on this theme. But we really want to engage and keep engaged other communities who are interested in the topic in more general. So this is the background and the cluster. And as I said, we are very enthusiastic about working with knowledge clusters, because it's always the most rewarding part of this work, I have to say, when we work directly with communities. It's been a great pleasure to work directly with communities in Smart Role 21, and we are really, really happy to have you here and continue working with you on this. So it's a quote, and I don't know, to be honest, I didn't know, Dan, the community's name who said it in their application, but I found it very, and I had to cut it. It's a shortened version of the quote that we had, and someone who wanted to share this in the comments and further communities. Anyone recognizes his, her own words on this slide? I can't see all your faces, but maybe if someone knows that she wrote this, you can tell. But I will just read out these words, and you can tell at the end. It's about energy production locally, and I think it's a lot about energy self-sufficiency and independence and decentralized energy production. And it says that it's a very important matter, and even a crucial matter for rural areas. It is a matter of resilience and safety, because rural areas are especially vulnerable in the case of power cuts in winter time. Rural areas are also quite often have a rather large percentage of older people, and these could have few options in case of long power cuts in the midst of winter, or for example, during a storm. Decentralized energy production and solving issues regarding the need for transportation could quite possibly be the biggest single step forward in rural development. in rural development. And sorry, I didn't see the last words because it was placed wrongly on my screen, but the biggest single step forward in rural development in a very long time. And I like this quote because I think it summarizes many of the ideas that you put in your different applications. So thanks for that, and thanks for sharing the thoughts. And of course, we would like to encourage you to keep sharing your ideas.